Hey everyone, Pastor Tommy McMurtry here from Liberty Baptist Church in Rock Falls. Just wanted to share something with you. So a lot of stuff going on right now with churches, a lot of places wanting to reopen, and it's different all over the country. Some places they're arresting people. Some places they won't even let them have drive-in services, and we're seeing a lot of craziness going on. And so, a lot of pastors are just kind of wondering what they need to do to protect themselves and protect their church, because you just don't know what's going to happen today. And so I spent some time yesterday talking to a couple different Christian lawyers and just trying to get some advice from them and some guidance on what to do. I talked to someone from Lighthouse Legal Ministries, and they gave me some very helpful things. I had a really good talk with him. And then I briefly spoke with somebody from the Christian Law Association, and they sent me an email, a list of kind of some guidelines and things that they have, suggested guidelines for churches should they reopen. Now, I'm going to read these to you, these guidelines, and folks, it's going to blow your mind, all right, what these things say. Now, I want to say, I do not believe this is a bash on the Christian Law Association. So if you read their whole email, they are on the side of the churches. They believe that churches are essential. They do not believe that the government has the right to tell churches, when they can meet and how they can meet. But at the same time, the Christian, they, even though they might agree with us, they are trying to protect people legally. And so even though they have the same beliefs that we do on this, they are trying to protect us from those who have a lot of power, who maybe do not agree with this. So I'm thankful there's groups out there that can tell it to us straight, even if it's stuff that we don't want to hear. So that's what they're there for. And that's when I talk to these folks, I ask them, I said, I just need you to tell it to me straight. I understand you agree with me, but at the same time, what are the authorities going to do? What are they going to say, if I don't go along with all their stuff? Because, that's the real concern. So this list here of guidelines, I believe it's something that's been put together, that they feel would get the government to leave us alone. So this is not a bash on Christian Law Association. This is a bash on the insanity that is going on in our society today. Because what is expected to be done here is impossible. And it's just wrong. And it would not be church if we did these things. And I want you to picture a church service where these things that I'm going to read to you are being followed. And ask stuff, would you go to a church like that? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I wouldn't. And there's no way we're going to do all this stuff in our church. This is ridiculous. So, and again, slam on the government, not on Christian Law Association. They're just trying to protect us. I want them to tell me what the government's expecting from me. And I believe that's what they did here. So I hope everybody takes this the right way. Christian Law Association is not the enemy here. But it says, number one, encourage and consider requiring high-risk individuals and or caregivers of high-risk individuals to stay home and utilize distance options to attend. And then they give a long list of people who would be considered high risk. Now, I think that's okay. There's definitely plenty of reason to be concerned, and people who are at high risk that this could really hurt, they should take measures of precaution, and I'm fine with that. I support that. But at the same time, too, I don't know if I'm prepared as a pastor to deny entrance into a church because of somebody's age. If they are a responsible adult and they understand the situation, I believe they can make that choice. If they're looking at the numbers in their community and saying, it's just not that bad out here, I feel safe, I want to come to church, I'm going to have a tough time as a pastor saying, no, I'm sorry, but you're 65, you can't come, but the one who's 64 can because, they're under the number on the guidelines. People can make some of these decisions on their own, okay? There's a lot of 64-year-old people that are more healthy than 65, or they're less healthy than a lot of 65-year-old people. People can make their decisions on that, but I don't think that's too unreasonable. I think it's good to suggest that, but enforce it, I don't know I'm ready to do that. But number two, now picture going to church like this. Station a staff member at all entrances to check the temperature of every incoming member or visitor. Utilize a no contact method of taking temperatures. Boy, when I come to church, I like to be greeted, with happy smile and a warm handshake, not with a guy wearing a mask and rubber gloves scanning my forehead like he's checking for the mark of the beast or something. It says these staff members must wear protective face coverings at all times as well as gloves. How many of you all enjoy going into Walmart and seeing all the workers in masks and talking to the cashier hiding behind plexiglass, wearing a mask? Do you want to go to church and assemble with the believers when they're treating you like you got the plague and they're acting like they got the plague and you can't even see their face? Doesn't sound good to me. It says every attendee should be asked, have you read and do you agree with our attendance requirements? I mean, boy, attendance requirements a couple months ago was considered legalistic. A couple months ago, we were bad if we turned away somebody because they were a pedophile or something like that. Now, if they don't agree with our attendance requirements, we're supposed to send them packing. What if they don't want to wear the mask? Are we going to be like the Muslims and make all the women keep their faces covered? Where are the feminists standing against women wearing face coverings? Where are they at right now? It says any attendee that is not wearing a mask and gloves should be offered a set and required to put them on before entering. Boy, I remember when dress codes were considered legalistic. And now we've got a Muslim dress code that we're going to enforce where we're making everybody cover their faces. Any attendee that will not agree to abide by the attendance requirements should be respectfully asked to leave. Wow. Hey, where are the trendies on all this? Who've been down on IFB for having dress standards for all these years? Where are they at speaking out against this type of Sharia law? Where are they at right now? And you say, well, no, this is to protect people's health. If it's that dangerous, then we shouldn't be having church services. If it's so dangerous that we can't go out without wearing a mask and rubber gloves and scanning everybody's foreheads and asking them all these questions, we shouldn't be having services. It should be live stream only if it's that bad. Here's the problem. I'm not convinced that it's that bad in our area. And most of the people in our church aren't convinced it's that bad in our area. So I'm supposed to require all these things of the people in our church and expect them to come to church with an attitude of worship? It's not going to work. Boy, if I go to a church like that, I'm going to have a real bad attitude. I can't help it. You say, well, you're not very spiritual. Maybe not. But, going and get my forehead scanned, being told I got to wear a mask and gloves when I'm wanting to go to church, that's going to put me in a bad frame of mind. And I get in a bad frame of mind every time I go into the store. But here's the third thing. It says refuse entrance to any individual who has been in contact with an infected person or who is exhibiting the following symptoms that have been associated with COVID-19. And then it gives a list of a bunch of things. So we're going to go and we're going to grill everybody. We're going to give everybody the third degree before they come into church. Instead of a typical, hey, how are you doing? Good to see you. Have you been in contact with anybody with a fever, with a cough, shortness of breath, chills, repeated shaking, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell, or other neurological issues? Where's your mask? Where's your gloves? You don't have them? Put them on. I want you to read, before you come into church, I want you to read a list of our requirements for attending church. Do you agree with these? If you do not agree, you can leave. This is not a church service that I want to go to. It says require extreme sanitation of all public church facilities after every gathering. This will be time consuming but is essential. Now, I think it's pretty reasonable to ask churches to be clean and to sanitize everything. That's fine. But then it goes on to say discourage use of restroom facilities and have staff constantly prepared to clean and sanitize following each individual usage. This may necessitate a shortening of service length. So we're going to have a staff member hanging out by the bathrooms, and after somebody goes in there, they go and are followed by somebody in a hazmat suit to go out there and just, kill all the germs. How is that going to make people feel? That's horrible. Keep plenty of hand soap and sanitizer available for use. Have facial tissues and places to dispose of used tissues spread throughout the building. And that's fine. Then, social distancing must be in effect. The best methods will vary based on your church size and facilities. Attendees should be instructed on where to sit by church staff to ensure social distancing. While at a church gathering, families should enter, sit, stand, and exit as a group. No one should wander away from their family group. Distancing should be kept in all direction, front, back, left, and right. Each family group should remain at least 6 feet away in all directions from other attending family groups. First off, our auditorium's not big enough to do something like that, but 6 feet. So we got to keep everybody in their families. They got to all walk in as a group, all bunched together. Go sit down, not move. Don't talk to anybody. Don't shake anybody's hand. Don't be careful. Stay in your own little group. Come in together. Leave together. Dismiss people one family at a time. Folks, how in the world are people going to come and worship and praise the Lord when they're going through this kind of stuff? I can't even imagine anything more discouraging. I want to see a video of any church doing this, and I want to see the faces of the people. That's going to be a horrible church services. Consider removing chairs or pews to create distance between seats. Consider multiple services to limit attendance if needed. All physical contact should be prohibited, handshakes, hugs, etc. Dismissal should be controlled, and attendees should be instructed to exit row by row to ensure no unnecessary crowding or congregating at the exits. Encourage attendees to promptly return home and refrain from fellowshipping at the end of the service. Provide and require the use of masks and gloves at the entrance point by all attendees. Mark and separate multiple entrance points and required exit points. Establish a one-way traffic pattern through the building. So we're going to put all those footprints and all these lines and things like they got in Walmart. We're going to put that through our church. I don't like it. Increase ventilation as much as possible if weather permits. Prop doors open to minimize contact with door handles. You know what? While we're at it, why don't we just have playing over the speakers on a loop? Be sure to maintain social distancing. Be sure not to touch anything. Germs spread. Don't touch your hands, face, nose, eyes or mouth. People are getting enough of that everywhere they're allowed to go. Can we not have one place where people can go, where there's sanity, where there's some calm, where we can have some peace, where we can worship the Lord? I mean, we all know each other. It's not like at Walmart where there's a lot more people, where it's strangers. Our church, we're family. And a church, that's an assembly of believers. You can't have live stream church, okay? You can have live stream preaching, but you can't have live stream church. One of the great things about church, it is the worshiping together, the praying together, the singing together, and the fellowship that takes place before church and after church. That is one of the greatest things about church. It's one of the most beneficial things about church. That's where that iron sharpening iron. There is so much that you get from coming to church and assembling together that you cannot get just from preaching online. And the truth is, if we put all these things in measure, we might as well just stay at home and watch a live stream, because you'll be in a better frame of mind doing that than going and doing all this stuff. I can't imagine anything more discouraging than walking up to a church building, being greeted by a man in a mask and rubber gloves who scans my forehead, who gives me the 3rd degree, who tells me I've got to agree with the list of requirements, otherwise I'm going to be asked to leave. I got to go walk in there with my family all together. I got to be discouraged from using the bathroom. If I do use the bathroom, somebody's going to follow me in there after I'm done, and they're going to go, scrub everything down to, get rid of all the germs like I've got the plague or something. And then I'm going to sit there in church, and I'm going to look around a congregation full of people wearing masks, and then I've got to sing wearing a mask, and I can't even imagine, folks. This will not work. This can't be done. And it's foolish for anyone to ask. Again, this is not the Christian Law Association. I'm sure if they had their way, they would let us all meet together and do what we want to do. They're just trying to protect us from the authorities. But the authorities are ridiculous, and they are wrong when they think that church is not essential, and when they think we can have church like this. Walmart hasn't even gone this far with the measures that they've put in place. Okay, I haven't seen any place go as far is this right here. But this is what our government wants. This is what's being expected. And I think it's ridiculous. And then the last thing it says right here, it says, consider and utilize alternative methods of administering church offerings, baptisms, and the Lord's Supper that do not require physical contact. Forgo using physical church bulletins to limit hand-to-hand exposure. Do not utilize nurseries, Sunday school, children's church, or bus ministries at this time. So folks, what we're seeing right here is basically them just handicapping church, making it where we can't do it. And these requirements are silly. And I believe that every church is capable of coming up with responsible methods that work for their church and their situation and their building. They can do that, and they shouldn't have to put up with this kind of silliness, this kind of foolishness. The stuff we're seeing them do at Walmart, it's silly. It doesn't help. It's not going to do anything, but it is a way just to get in everybody's heads, to keep them focused on, social distancing and hygiene and things like that. And, some of that might be good, but when we come to church, we come to worship. And I preached a message a while back about why we can't be obedient in the flesh. And I talked about how, in the Old Testament, they had all these divers washings and all these cleansings that they had to do before they could go into the temple or the tabernacle. And those things were very monotonous. They were very painstaking measures that they had to do. But now, because Jesus Christ has cleansed us with his blood, we now have liberty. We can approach the throne of grace boldly, and we can find that help in the time of need. We can walk right into church knowing we are ready for worship, thanks to the blood of Jesus Christ. And these measures that they're wanting to take us to, it's almost like taking us back to the Old Testament, and probably worse. And one of the great things about church that I talked about, and this was way back in January before any of this stuff was going on, the great thing about that I think we don't appreciate is that ability that we have to just at any time, we're ready to pray, we're ready to worship, we're ready to talk to God without going through all these cleansings. And if we've got to go through junk like that to come into a church service, there's no liberty in that. There's no joy in that. And I can come to church and I can sing about the grace of God, and I can sing about the glory of God and about the blood of Jesus Christ, and I'm cleansed and I am ready to go. I'm ready to meet with God. I'm ready for him to speak to me. I'm ready to pray to him. These are one of the great things about Christianity, and we can't enjoy that when we're going through all these measures. What they're promoting right here is not church. And it is not acceptable. And while I do think, there were things that needed to be done and measures that should have been put in place, I think people did it. And I think, now we've learned that it was probably a lot more than what we needed to do. But at this point, it's time to just say, enough's enough. We played your little game. We're ready to get back to business. We're ready to get back to normal. And I'm not willing to accept what we're seeing here as a new normal. This is ridiculous, and it's got to stop. So I just wanted to share that with you and show you this is what they're going to want our church service, the government's going to want our church services to look like. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not willing to accept that. I don't know anybody who's going to want to go to a church like that. I sure don't want to go to a church like that. So anyway, speak out against this stuff. Let your leaders know that you're against these things and that you're ready for our country to open up. You're ready to stop the insanity. Enough is enough. This is ridiculous. So I just wanted to share that with you, just to just remind you once again, our country is losing its mind. But you know what? God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I'm ready to just get back to business the way it always was. And I hope you're ready too. So God bless you. We'll see y'all next time.